Good afternoon. My name is Gita. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I remember especially when this opportunity kind of arose, and I think I missed a bunch of calls and messages because I just relocated to Bombay recently. And then finally, Professor Chandrasekhar reached out to me and he said, "We've been trying to reach you and what was happening, and we'd like to get you to come down and talk about this and be part of this panel." And I remember telling him, "Are you really sure you want me to come?" Number one, this is women in architecture. And I hardly practice architecture, to be honest, nowadays. And second, almost everybody who is out there are people who I've been looking up to for 20 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years. I said, this isn't really, the right platform for me to really come and share what we have been up to. He said, no, what you're doing is something that's completely different. So I had to come and kind of just share your story. And considering we're at a college here, and there are several people here who have been my faculty, I'm going to be quite brave here today and tell you all, especially the students out there, that when I actually took up architecture, it wasn't even my first choice. When I decided to take that 5-year BR course, it wasn't even the first thing I thought I should do. So after a very, very long process of analyzing what I would be good at, what I had a natural aptitude for, where my skill sets lay, I think the aptitude test that I took told me that I could have a wonderful career in physics or economics because I had a very good rational mind. It said I could do medicine really well because I had empathy and I still was disciplined about, kind of dedicating 15 years more to academics. It said that I could actually have a career in the arts and in the humanities because I had a passion for detail. It said that I could be an entrepreneur, that I had a very good mind for business. At the end, what it basically told me was nothing. That it said that I could do a whole bunch of this, but that was not really the answer I was looking for, was it? What I really was looking for was one answer. And why I started with this slide, but this is something that I ask myself almost every 6 months. Almost every 6 months I come back to, what am I doing right now? And is this where I'd like to be going? Is this what I'd like to be doing right now? And is this helping me to where I'd like to go in the next 1 year? Luckily, in architecture, finally, the reason I kind of the reason I chose architecture was because there was a lovely mix of both the technical subjects to it, right? The maths and physics and logic to it. And there was a lovely blend of arts and detail, history. And I felt this is a space that I could safely explore myself. And that has literally been the best decision I could take. It is true that today, as much as I call myself Architect Gita a lot of times, not as much as I used to before, I don't practice that much of architecture now. I have practiced architecture for 10 years since we graduated. So with my partner Shivana and I, we kind of started out with really small renovation, small design projects, literally while we were in college. Right? So from the third year onwards, and this is something you'll all see, you'll have friends, you'll have relatives who, now that you actually have some skill set, will say, oh, I have this one room, I'm going to do you a favor. Why don't you actually, try out something on my project? Right? So what it actually means is you're not going to get paid. All of that means you will never get paid. Okay? So at that stage, of course, we were still in college. It was a great learning experience. And we took everything that came our way. I have a classmate of mine here who's done fantastically well for herself and is running one of the very large practices in landscaping nowadays here. But I remember the first landscaping project we took, simply with the idea that you should say no to anything. And you should try out everything once. It doesn't apply to everything. You really should try out everything once. Because for that presentation, I spent 48 hours by-hearting names of plants and everything that was, oh my God, that was a disaster. First and last time, it was very clear to me that my career did not lie in landscaping. But this whole journey, the 10 years that we did, when we started out, so Shivana and I, we were both classmates in college, really good friends. And we decided that we had a similar work ethic, and we said, okay, it's a good kind of platform to start out with. We took everything that came our way. How we actually quit, we were interning, of course, and then we were in a job for about a year. And there was this project that was rolled out in Bangalore. This is a developer who rolled out an 800 apartment project. And it was an open competition to a bunch of designers. And here we were, barely a year out of college, used to the 18, 20-hour kind of days, where now the bosses that we had were throwing us out of office at 6 p.m., telling us, go, have a life. And we're like, what is that? What do you do, if you're out at 6 p.m.? And I'm like, oh my God, I still have another 8 hours to do something. So for the fun of it, we took part in the competition, simply because we had so much of time, right? So worked nights and worked Sundays. And to our amazing surprise, I promise you no one was more surprised than us, we actually were shortlisted and then won this 800 apartment project that was coming up on the outskirts of Bangalore. Now the reality of it was that we had the design skills to win a competition, but we didn't have the technical skills to actually execute that project, right? Come on, who are we kidding? So as soon as we were actually, I had a rude awakening when we had to discuss the actual contract, and Shilan said, I'm not good at all of this anyway, you go. And I walk in, and there are 15 men in this conference room. And each one of them, I walked in, they actually looked behind me and said, so where's your boss? And I said, yeah, that's me. I'm it. You're not getting anybody else, right? I'm here. That's all you get. So from that initial step to understanding that we didn't really have the technical knowledge, we actually partnered with Shidan's father, became associates in his firm, and we spent about 5 years, 4 to 5 years, working together and took any project that came our way. Ironically, of course, that project never took off. So 2007-8, when recession hit, that was one of the, that's one of the things that actually fell by the wayside. Where that project was actually, they sold about 150 apartments, but when you have 800 to sell, that's too low really. So that was shelved, and they actually subdivided that and sold it as blocks. The heartache. But that was a really good experience in us constantly understanding where we wanted to go and constantly seeing what did we want to do. And at that phase still, we were just all about the learning, but what we could do. That meant we did gyms, we did salons, and it started from really small things. It started from doing one room. It started from an architect, much older architect who was a lecturer in college, who said, oh, you kids have so much of time, right? You're hardly doing anything. Why don't you actually detail out this one space for me? So that was his project. And he said, why don't you guys do this? I don't have, draftsmen in my office right now. And we said, sure. And that client, after a while, told the designer, why don't you both work next time together on the project? It came from doing one small space in an existing house where somebody wanted to open a canteen. And really enjoying that, which led to our first first restaurant, which led to a chain of restaurants, which led to a hotel of 35 rooms, which led to a hotel of 100 rooms. And in the next 10 years, we did projects across the country. Why I didn't bring up the topic of the presentation till now was, in reality, the women in architecture part is something that didn't really occur to me in all of this while. I saw it occasionally when I landed up at a site, when I landed up in front of builders and developers. But personally, I come from a family where my grandmother actually worked. She was the first woman on a shop floor in Germany. My mother worked. So in my family, if you're not really working and pursuing a career, that's what's odd. Right? So it didn't seem like something, it wasn't breaking any glass ceiling, it wasn't doing something extraordinary. It was pretty much expected in my family that you would actually pursue a career. So I thought that was perfectly normal. Till, during these 10 years, there were all of these different people that I got to meet. Now, part of this journey of actually doing projects across the country, and funnily enough, I'm not going to show you any project of mine. I'm not going to show you a single project that I designed. Right? Because what I really wanted to share here was the journey more, to kind of have you understand, at least hopefully that you would gain value in that, in the evolution of it, rather than the projects. Maybe another reason really was I knew you all were coming. I'm like, do I really want to show my projects there? No, I just kid. But so in this part of this, as we were actually doing projects across the country, we were getting better and better. We were experiencing more and more materials, we were playing with bigger budgets, we were getting chances of doing different kinds of work. And even if you aren't the most passionate designer out there, just the fact that you're doing this variety means that you're just opening up your own, right? On the amount that you learn and the amount you try out. And I felt that there was this clear distillation of thought. There was a very clear understanding of how to do projects better. And then I realized that the number of people who were coming up to us was lesser and lesser. As we were getting better and better, I only had people who therefore were willing to pay a little more. And architect projects, you charge percentages. So as you actually gain renown, you win awards, your projects get featured in magazines, you get to charge more. And that's a good thing. Okay, that is a good thing. When I actually graduated out of architecture, I remember my seniors telling me, or not even when I graduated, when I started, they said, if this is the kind of profession you're going to come into, this is not really where you're going to make any money. And this is what I was thinking, really? Architecture? Oh well, it was kind of late to take that decision there. But this wasn't the space for that, to really make money. But after a couple of years, when we did start seeing some money come in, we realized that the actual people to whom we would actually enjoy doing budget homes for, to actually do really innovative solutions in low budgets for, were no longer coming to us. Right? Because now there was this automatic expectation built up that you were only doing premium projects. And I saw this more and more in the space of residential homes, of home interior design. Oddly, this is a space which most architects don't touch at all. A lot of architects do very nice high-end homes, right? Homes where you get at least a 50 lakh to a crore budget, where the client is giving you this opportunity to experiment, to try out different options, different styles, and it's wonderfully rewarding to actually be able to connect with somebody and to create a space that's their own abode, that they're going to live in each and every day, that you get to actually affect that. It's wonderful. But yet, the people who would have benefited from the large range of skills that we now had were not coming to us anymore. And this is something that kept bothering me. That what was it that we were doing? What was the purpose? What was it that I wanted my skill set for? Who was I actually working for? Now on the side I had my partner who wasn't thinking like this, and there is a clear difference between how men and women think. Sinan was thinking nothing of this sort. He was working on projects and was not enjoying the details of it. So after the 50th project, where he had to sit at site and figure out how to wire for the exhaust, he actually came back and told me that, Gita, I do not want to be doing this for the next 10 years. Right? What we want to do is create change at a macro level. And this does not satisfy me. Another thing that we noticed was that in India today, you can get a 100,000 square, I beg your pardon, you can get 1 lakh square feet of an office completely done in interiors in 30 days. 30 days, you can get 1 lakh square feet of an office outfitted. And you can't get 1,000 square feet of a home done in 30 days. It's just not possible. You can pick up a project yourself. I can give you all the people you need, and you can't get it done in that much time. And the sheer disparity of it, the fact that we were accepting quality that wasn't up to the mark, I was seeing really good quality material that was possible, We were getting the best material from around the world. We were seeing factory processes that had improved. I was seeing execution at a much more detailed level because of all the commercial and retail and hospitality projects that we were working for. And I never saw that coming back to the house. And it saddened me that this is a space that you spent most of your time in, and you accepted things that were lower in quality. And all of these kind of crystallized around what design cafe eventually was, or what design cafe is. The idea of what we started was, the idea of what we kind of had in mind was, is there a way to actually give everybody access to really good design and design practices? And for about a year and a half, this is what we were thinking about. So this is one part of it, right? This is the part of it from the industry. And the other part of it was us as designers, and we seeing that again and again, we were stuck doing slightly mundane things. For everybody who's actually had to do a drawer detail, right? A drawer detail of a wardrobe versus a drawer detail of a chest of drawers, of a drawer detail in a kitchen versus a drawer detail in a cutlery unit, the drawer detail in a shoe unit. They're all slightly different drawers. But you know the funny thing is, across 20 homes, they're not really different. You magnify that into 100 homes and they're still not different. And we saw this wonderful opportunity here. That was there a way to kind of standardize the back end and offer customization to designers in the front end, which is what they would really enjoy, where you actually get customized for each and every client. There's no catalog. You don't have to standardize everything. You get to design each and every time, but the blocks, the actual technical details are set. And you can't go wrong because you're not allowed to go wrong. So these were the rough ideas we had in mind, and this is how we started Design Cafe. So this is what we do right now. The idea is, and what is there for everybody that is actually in the business? The customer actually gets this. The customer gets instant pricing, they get customized designs, they get somebody who actually consults and kind of guides them through the entire process of their home, whether this is selection, whether this is actually picking up of each small loose furniture and artifact, a visualization of the entire space. Now somebody actually asked me, what is it you actually do? Something in the online kind of digital kind of space. Everything that we do is offline. Design is still done by designers. We have about 400 people in Bangalore because we do about 150 homes a month. Now how this is possible is by the fact that we've built software that allows you to actually not worry about the back end. And the back end itself is built by a team of designers who are every day just thinking, how can I make details better? So that's our R&D team at the core, who are sitting and building these blocks each and every time. So this is when we thought a while ago, one is it that for everybody, let me take a small example. So I always find myself short of time. And invariably, the two things which is dressing up in my book, which is putting one line of kajal and one swipe of lipstick, is what I do in my car. Okay, so I've never had to build a dressing mirror in my room. Simply because what would I do in front of it? The whole idea of actually sitting in front of a mirror and having a whole range of cosmetics around it is something that befuddled me. So thinking that there were a lot of people like that around me, I said, okay, there should be a simple way for people who like to have a full mirror, have 5 things that they need, which doesn't take so much of space, but still fits in one of these urban homes that we all live in. And that's what we did. It's about understanding that in almost every home, do you really give space for a medicine cabinet? You should have it, but do you have it? How many of us have plugged-in devices in our bathroom cabinets? All of us build in those lovely mirrors with some storage, and then you're dangling out hair dryers and shavers and then trying to stuff them in somewhere else. This is in the kitchen too. I mean, all of us would love island kitchens, wouldn't we? Beautiful islands, lovely breakfast counters. My partner and I actually end up having a very, very quick breakfast and getting out. So that would be something ideal for us, but with the paucity of space, what we have is one unit where all our appliances are plugged in. We don't move them in and out each day. There's an extendable counter on which you prepare. Push it back, clean it up, close it, and you're done. This sits in our living room because it actually looks like a showcase. A lot of these solutions are small daily things. And I keep telling people, we aren't solving the problems of the world. We aren't curing cancer, we aren't putting men to the moon. But the idea is in our most intimate space, in the space that we call our own, can we actually make it function better? Can we avoid those small steps that we make again and again and again and again? Even if you make 10 extra steps every single day for the next 10 years, just think of what you would avoid in sheer frustration of not having a specific space for everything you want. Which is, in my book, what good interior design can help you do. So all of these that we've put together is enabling designers to do that for customers. Is enabling designers to allow customers to visualize what they are going to get before they do. So most of us actually get homes done with carpenters where things get done in front of our site. So you can change your mind, you can decide you don't want to do something. But because a lot of what we do, everything that we do is actually done in the factory, you don't get to change your mind. So what we did instead was develop a VR app that allowed somebody to completely walk through each and every room, visualize it the way it would be, and then say, yes, now you can go and manufacture it. One of the most frustrating things for most of us is actually price. Right? A home is such a special place such a special space for us, and this is something that if we are lucky, we end up doing once in our lifetime. If we are very lucky, we end up building 2 homes in our lifetime. And yet, we have no idea how much that's going to cost us. And at every stage, we find that this just increases. So we wanted to find a way where we could actually guarantee how much something is going to cost you. If we said this is it in the beginning, that really wasn't. Everything is taken care of. So when I said we have about 400 people in Bangalore, about 60 of those are designers. But for every designer we have one project manager. So every designer is mapped to a project manager so that every home has one dedicated person who's actually looking and putting all of these pieces together. Which means you don't have to go behind and check and manage each and every piece. We also did a bunch of things around installation, warranty, guarantee, making sure that everything is something that we can track. Okay, this is what I explained a bit in the beginning. Now, there's still a way to go. The idea that we have, the mission that we have, is to create a singular brand across the country, which would actually be a one-stop shop for interiors. We aren't quite there yet, but we definitely have made big strides towards it. The idea being that you can walk in and see enough variety and understand what really suits you and get that picked so that that is what you actually get in the end. Now, this is a very funny slide to put up in an architecture presentation, isn't it? I remember a while ago when I was just in a room full of architects. And I put up a slide about numbers. And after the presentation, people actually told me, architecture is a noble profession. It's not a business. What you're actually doing when you put up numbers like this What is it? What is not preserving the respect for it, not understanding the sanctity of it. I've heard every version of it. At the core of it, though, I truly believe that the idea is, can you ensure that somebody gets maximum value for what they want? And this is not just money-wise, this is even design-wise, this is aspiration-wise. Right? When you start out for your home, when you're actually looking to get your home interiors done, you have several criteria. You have a budget, of course, and that is central to almost every single person in middle class India. Then you have your actual requirements. Additionally, you have your aspirations. And what we are really trying to do is marry these three. Understand what your requirements are, understand what is possible in your own space, marry it to the budget you have, and make sure we provide space for what you actually dream of. Now, why it's important to understand that is because that's the reality of where we are today. And which is why this is a good business to be in. So the truth of all of these numbers is that even though we're in one city in India, we're the second largest home interior solution provider in the country by sheer volume of what we do. And we get to Bombay, and I will surely get past those numbers. But what drives us each and every day, is how are you adding value? And it all comes back to how we adding value in design. Because that's at the core what distinguishes what we do from any other solution provider out there. Because we as designers are thinking, how can we add value through design? How can we make sure we actually provide you a sofa cum bed that doesn't feel like, those horrible rods on your back when you've actually slept on a futon? How do you make sure you get storage where you need it? For all of us who live in 1,000 square feet homes, how do you make sure it doesn't look cluttered, but still there is a space for everything you need? Now these images that I'm showing you are all homes that are designed by different designers in the firm. All across Bangalore, completely different projects, no two projects really alike. Different budgets, different spaces, different requirements, different materials. And one thing that we have held very centrally from the beginning is that at the end of the day, a designer should enjoy design. It isn't about one style, it isn't about one concept, but can you make things that actually bring joy, that bring delight? And people inhabit these spaces, right? People actually live here each and every day. This is the question that Sukamaji said. Can you actually maintain the sanctity of design at some scale? Right? This is what I get asked for. Will I actually kill every other small boutique firm that is actually practicing design? Why do most people prefer larger firms? And how do we maintain design sanctity? How are we trying to maintain design? How are we working towards maintaining design sanctity, the detailing, the right technical specifications? Is by making sure that there is a very focused, strong research and development team at the core that builds and constantly works on all the design that we do. On every single material we use, on how we can use material better, on how is it that we can actually maximize the value of what we actually put in. Like to date, most factories actually make drawer details. Any drawer that you actually see, the exact same way that it was made when carpenters made it inside. That actually is a 30% more, that takes 30% more material than it does if you actually make it, when you actually make it in factories. The detail is different, but you need to reimagine it. You need to think of it in the right context. Now we don't aim to be the biggest firm out there. On the contrary, what we're actually doing is partnering with design firms. So we have about 80 design firms in Bangalore, a lot of them small design firms, who really enjoy the process of design. Right now, I said I have 60 designers in-house, and I will keep increasing that. But at the end of the day, I don't plan to have 500 and 1,000 of them in Bangalore. And how I can scale this up is making sure that I give access to the best of the material, the best of the software, the best of the technical abilities, the fact that I can create 10,000 square feet experience centers to everybody else. So a designer who actually partners with us, they still design, they have complete control on what they do. We execute for them. We offer them the 3Ds, made in DR. We offer and allow them to use our experience centers where clients can come in for selection of materials. And all we do is execute. At the end of the day, what we're trying to create is a circle of entrepreneurship, of entrepreneurs all around us. Now, in the beginning, we didn't own our factory. We had a very Uber-like model, where there are factories with spare capacity. What we did was utilize that. And then we realized there was value to be had in putting processes in place in the factories. And via that, now we have an entrepreneurship model where we're giving factories who are not able to scale a model where they can, where there is enough business that they can actually scale. So at every point, what we're doing is building the circle of entrepreneurship. So all of us grow together and see a lot more potential for what we really enjoy doing. I ask this question a lot to us, within the firm a lot. Does scale improve design? Just because we're a larger firm doesn't mean that we deliver better every time. No, not really, not at all, right? At the end of the day, even the whole is comprised of each individual. And if you do not put processes in place, you don't give everybody access to the same tools, how can we be better? Then you're just taking the same small problem and making it a larger piece. Right? So we can only be better when you're actually openly sharing access to all the tools you have, to all the intelligence you gather. So you actually have all these tools you've built all the intelligence around materials, and you share it openly. And that means all of us become better. And how that helps me is when every single vendor is actually putting the right material out there, it means that I'm not worried about project management that much. It means when the factory is following the right process, I can assure a 10-year warranty on a home. And why shouldn't you? It's a home, for God's sake. It's made of plywood. Don't you think it would last? Of course it does. But it doesn't when you take shortcuts. It doesn't when you paint on plywood instead of actually putting laminate. It doesn't when you actually end up painting or polishing the edge and don't put edge back. It's in the details. But it's about giving access to everybody about those details, which is something what we're doing. And this is the question for each and every one of you. With the landscape changing so rapidly, now this was nowhere visible when I graduated 10 years back. But in 10 years, I've seen such a paradigm shift of what's coming. Is it changing the way our profession is run? No. You can practice like an architect did 10 years back, 20 years back, even today. But the opportunities that exist for what you want to do are just manifold now. So I've had the fortune of actually mentoring over 100 interns in this journey. And for everybody who came up and told me, will you kind of write a recommendation letter for my master's course? I would also always kind of tell them, I will write it if you're doing it a couple of years after your bachelor's. But not if you're doing it now. Right? Have some idea as to what you want to do. And what do you enjoy doing? What is the space you actually want to function in? This isn't engineering that you did 4 years of and now I'm going to go do an MBA and then get another job that is completely unrelated to what you did in your engineering. Right? Architecture is something you get better and better at for the next 60 years. Right? You're supposed to be in your prime in your 60s. You're just starting out now. Why would you limit yourself? Find out what you really enjoy doing. I know architects who are now doing product design. I know architects who are doing construction management, architects who are doing landscaping, architects who are actually doing interior design, architects who are doing nothing in the design field completely and are functioning in a different space. And does it make that architecture degree not valid at all? You know, I thought that for years. And the funny thing is, I don't believe that anymore. That education that we had of understanding design, of clarity, of balance, understanding how spaces work, the harmony between it, is education that you can use in any field that you get into. Even design space, but as much as non-design space. But as a student today, I think you owe it to yourself to find out, to give yourself the opportunity to find out what you truly enjoy. Even within the design space, because architecture just isn't one thing. And then make sure you give yourself enough opportunity to actually work and achieve success in that space. Because that's the space, that's the world we live in today, where you can do this. And maybe it wasn't so true before. And at this part is where I'm going to slightly spend a little time on the actual part of the topic that we had today. Now, I was telling you about the question I ask myself every 6 months. I still do it today. Actually, to be fair, both Shazan and I do it today. And we constantly ask ourselves, are we taking responsibility for who we are today, for where we want to go tomorrow? Because at the end of the day, where we are going tomorrow no longer just means where we are going tomorrow, but it also means where 400, 500 people are going tomorrow. Earlier, when I actually said, who am I, it was an architect. And I got very irritated if somebody called me an interior designer. Somebody actually made a mistake of calling me, interior designer. I was like, I studied 5 years of architecture. I deserve to be called an architect and not an interior designer. I think I've gotten over that. I spent a lovely year teaching, really primarily to kind of get an opportunity to connect with students and see what they actually were passionate about, what was driving them, what were the conversations they were having, what were the ideals they had, what was the vision they had for themselves. At the same time, I first finished an MBA, did another master's in design thinking in MIT. Does it make me a teacher? Does it make me a student? Am I a manager today? Am I a designer? Am I a mentor? Or a leader? Or an activist? And then there are all those other personal titles, which are very, very true to being a woman. Are you a daughter? Are you a sister? Are you a daughter-in-law? Are you a wife? Are you an aunt? Men, and I'm not saying that men don't think about this. They just don't dwell on it as much as women do. And we seem to go on and on and on and on about it. Are we paying enough are we doing enough justice to all of these roles? Are we balancing them enough? And this is a larger responsibility now because at the firm that I have, I was just trying to get numbers together. Of the 400 people we have over 100 people who are actually people at work, at labor, which are our carpenters, plumbers, electricians, false ceiling painters. And right now I'm quite sorry to say that not one of them are women. Not one. They're all men. In the other half, the people who actually work at our offices, which are about 240 people, but 38% of them are women, while the other 62% are men. It's a much better picture when you actually look at the designers. So in the 60 designers that we have, 45 of them are women. 45 of them are women, but 15 of them are men. And the leaders of them, the managers, the team leaders, what you would call them, 9 of them are women, with 3 of them being men. Now, we haven't gone to the level where we actually reserve positions for women yet. What we actually do is make sure that we do as much as possible to keep women at work. And it is a much more complicated story than leaves and benefits. Because it is the truth of the matter that today, when it comes around to building a family, when it comes around to everything that you do at home, the reality of the situation is that most of the responsibility still falls on the woman. I'm happy to say that that isn't true at my home. That I have a partner who is an equal in every way, who finds it perfectly fair that he will take up responsibilities at the home. But I understand that this isn't true to everybody else. And this awakening, this understanding, has been part of the last 5 years. Earlier, every time I thought about women empowerment, it was restricted to a seminar that I was called for around Women's Day in March. Every Women's Day, call the woman entrepreneur, put her on a stage, and talk about women empowerment or women entrepreneurship. I remember thinking I was being such a hypocrite doing that, because I didn't really believe in that. Because in my life, it wasn't a limiting factor. Being a woman is just who I am. And I didn't really suffer because of that. But the reality is, it isn't true out there. I have women who have come back to the workforce after 12 years of being out of it. I have women who only are able to work because they get flexibility, where they can kind of come and do 6 hours at work, go back, take care of their children and do 2 hours after. Because we offer flexibility where you can come into work 4 days a week and work 2 days at home. You have to deserve it, you have to earn it, but you can get it. And a large part of it is having conversations about what you need, but asking for what you want. Now, Smita was actually introducing me in a bunch of different roles. And the reality of it, that has been so confusing for us. This understanding of who will be called what. And even for people like us who are so aware, so independent, the funny thing is, if you don't end up asking for something, nobody's going to hand it to you in a platter. So to my own partner, who happens to be a work partner for over 10 years now, we're married for over 6 years. When it came down to actually putting a designation, Shivan became the CEO. And I became, actually for a long time I had no designation. So for the longest time, depending on who I was meeting, if I was meeting somebody at an HR conference, I had a card that said the Chief Human Resource Officer. If I was meeting somebody when I went to the Google boot camp earlier last year, I was the Chief Marketing Officer. When I actually went to a design conference and when I meet interior designers and architects at IIID and IIM, they have the Chief Design Officer. Now, it is true that I actually manage these different roles at work. It's also true that Shivan and I have a lot of independence and freedom where we actually switch these roles around. He has taken care of design and I have taken care of design. He has taken care of finance and I have taken care of finance. He has taken care of marketing and I have taken care of marketing. Because we each feel that we bring completely different perspectives to the role at hand. But at the end of the day, and after a while, when I actually looked at these 4 distinct cards that I carried, I remember once asking Shivan, why are you the CEO? I don't see you doing anything different than I'm doing, really. We all seem to be doing the same things. And he looked and he thought and he was like, okay, is this going to become an issue? And then he was like, I think it's because I said I would be the CEO. And you never said you wanted to be the CEO. It really was as simple as that. I never said I wanted to be the CEO. I remember thinking, it doesn't mean anything really between us, but it means something to somebody else. When I hand out a visiting card, when I'm actually talking to somebody outside, it means something to them. When I'm in a meeting with venture capitalists, it means something to them that the woman founder is not at another role. It means something to the 120 women I have that the woman, the co-founder, is at the same level as the male co-founder. It makes a difference to everybody else outside of us. Which is when I told Shivan, I think I want to be the CEO too. And we spent 2 months trying to figure out what this designation was. Still, of course, we've still not figured it out. Right now, we both write co-CEOs. It's even more confusing than what it was before. And at least earlier, we thought I had something to do with marketing or design or HR, and now it's just all out there. But at the end of the day, it taught me something, that even as far as we have actually come, there's still a long way to go in how we actually think about roles like this, and how we think about women in education, how we think about women in practice, how we think of women everywhere. Because at the end of the day, will we actually stand up and ask for who we want to be and what we want to be? Thank you so much for the opportunity.